Welcome into another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, Crime Housing Bill C-22, which will give police new powers to access personal information. The Barrie Colts begin round 2 of the OHL playoffs, opening at home to the Ottawa 67s. We get a preview. We meet another of the Barrie Chamber of Commerce Women in Business Awards winners, a sweet and sassy one, and a local moving company has launched year 2 of its campaign to collect items for the Barrie Women and Children's Shelter. We get the conversation started after this. We are joined by the Honourable Ruby Sahota, Canada's Secretary of State for Combating Crime. Welcome to the program and welcome to Barrie.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for welcoming me to Barrie and to your show.
Not your first time through here. We were talking before. You're here on a regular basis, but now you're here on business. It's not your child's sporting events anymore.
Yes.
It's not vacation.
I feel Barrie is the place to come for sporting events for some reason. There's a lot of tournaments that happen here. So
yeah, we're right in the middle of everything.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, you're meeting over the next couple of days with a lot of community leaders. You've already met with the police chief. You're talking about crime, Bill C-22, housing. How are they all tied together?
There is strengthening legislation, and the Criminal Code of Canada is one aspect of it, but also making sure that people's basic needs are met is another very important part to it. So I will be talking a little bit more about that at the Rotary Luncheon. But today's meeting with Chief Johnson, who's a wonderful man. I really love your chief. He's really smart, articulate, and has a vision.
Progressive.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of people would call him progressive. Mm-hmm. I think he wants the best for policing. And so he has a vision of making sure that we are using research and evidence for policing, for, creating laws. Of course, we should always make our decisions based on evidence. And so it's nice to hear that from a police chief, that he would like to see consistency in policing across the country. And so we talked a little bit about that. And he's been doing some exploration and work with other countries as to how they go about doing policing. But our main part of our conversation was Bill C-22, which is the Lawful Access Bill. Now, this bill was first introduced in Parliament, I believe, in 2012. And there's been conversation around how police can lawfully gain access to digital information for decades now. Chief Couric of all of the chiefs of police in Canada has made some very strong statements. And a little while ago, he had told me that it was 30 years ago when he first started advocating and lobbying to make sure that we have a regime. And we have fallen far behind our peer countries in having a system in place. Right now, what we're doing is good investigators that have relationships with telecom companies and social media providers are sometimes able to get the information they need through a judicial production order, but it is a hit or miss type system across the country. There's not a consistency. There's not a framework, a system from which to work in. And so what this bill really does is provides that structure and framework. It sets up an expectation for telecommunication companies, digital service providers, and for law enforcement as to what the process to lawfully gain information should be. And I'm not talking about, your private emails or information like that. I'm talking about basic information. So I was speaking to a detective constable just now at Barrie Police Service about the work he does in child exploitation. And so this is the type of case in which production orders are constantly needed, and they need information from telecom companies to find out who a certain IP address belongs to, because they have found content of either pornographic child material on the web, on a social media platform, and they're trying to trace it to who is the creator of that content, or perhaps at times, they also have cases where a child is being abused in their possession. And so it's really important that we work quickly through these investigations so that we can protect children, so that we can get content like this removed. But it's not just child exploitation cases. It's almost any type of crime now. Every type of crime has a digital footprint. And so in order to speed up investigations, we need to have a system in place. And we're the only country that doesn't in the Western world. So it's Canadians will sometimes hear out there that this is some type of mechanism by which to, get into people's privacy. It really is not. It's when law enforcement has reasonable grounds to suspect that a person is involved in criminality, they are able to get through this bill confirmation as to whether that person has a telephone or an internet service through a company, and then they would have to get production order from a court and give that to that service provider in order to get basic information, a name, an address, an email address linked to that person so that they can then go about the rest of their investigation. And so that's all it is. If it leads them to a computer that has some type of illegal information, they would have to get a general warrant from a court to be able to search that computer. That part is not a part of this bill. That would already be done. And if they are led to the right suspect, most courts would allow them that type of warrant to be able to get that information. But this is just the initial steps of being able to find a suspect.
I was going to say it's the first step.
It's the first step.
It's wedging your foot in the door.
Yeah.
And hopefully opening it wider so we can get to the bottom of things.
And a very interesting thing that your detective constable here said that's a part of the child exploitation unit here in Barrie. He said that, first of all, they don't have the time to be looking at, people's emails at random or anything, nor do they have access to that today, nor would this bill provide them that. But what they're looking for is when they are tipped off either by a victim or by, in particular, a lot of their information, because social media companies are all housed in the U.S. Their information comes from an organization in the U.S. That works on child exploitation cases. The social media companies report to that agency. That agency then provides our law enforcement, either the RCMP or Barrie Police, if they believe the suspect to be here, that information, and then they act on that information. So they're not just randomly going out to people's homes. They've got some grounds to believe that you're connected to criminality of that type, and that's why they're at your door.
Here's the other thing. The criminal element is already making use of all this technology, more so than the police are able to at this point in time, and governments are able to. And so you're trying to get ahead of the game, but you still have to keep in mind people's privacy.
Yeah. Well, right now, we have tied our police's hands behind their backs, and there's no one restricting the criminals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they are many steps ahead. And we're working from laws that were created before social media, before the cell phone, the smartphone. That should say something. Everyone's got a smartphone these days. And like your chief was saying, there's no crime committed without a digital footprint. And so it would be very helpful in investigations. And if Canadians want for us to be able to crack down on criminality, I know that there, has been in the last little while a real concern from Canadians. That's why I have the position that I have. It's a new role. It was created because the concern is so high. But we can't do that without making sure that law enforcement has modern tools to be able to catch criminals that are also using very sophisticated tools. And that's why I say they've got their hands tied behind their backs, because all the Western countries, all our allies do have systems in place, and we do not. The purpose really is, and what's really near and dear to my heart, is to keep Canadians safe. And we can't do it without modernizing.
All right. This started in 2012, you said? goes way, way back. How
Yeah.
close are you to getting it through the House and passed into law and into the hands of police?
Yeah, the reason I say 2012 is because there have been conservative governments that have
Hmm.
attempted, there have been liberal governments that have attempted. And this is our second attempt just in this new Mark Carney government. And so we had first brought it forward in Bill C2. It was the second bill we had presented. It was a part of a larger bill. There was, some dispute and debate about it, and we didn't see it progressing further. So what we've done is we've refined it a bit, limited the scope. And I think what we have brought forward now in Bill C-22 is a standalone bill that just addresses this issue of how to give police the lawful authorities to speed up their investigations. But we've done it in a way where we brought telecom companies, civil liberties groups, and everyone from all sides of the spectrum to the table to have their input. And based on that input, we drafted a new version of the bill.
Do you have a target date in mind? How soon you'd like to have it in effect?
As soon as possible, Dan,
I
as
know, I
soon as
know. Well, I know
possible.
yesterday is
Yeah.
probably the answer.
Well, the police would say decades ago,
Hmm.
decades ago. So we are very, very far behind. I hope we get the support from opposition to be able to pass this as quickly as possible.
All right. I know you've got a whirlwind tour of the city and just different interest groups. Thank you so much for taking the time to stop by here today and
Thank you.
filling us in on the bill, giving us some background and enlightening people as to what really is going on.
Thanks, Dan. I really appreciate it. There is a lot of misinformation out there, and our intent really is to stay narrowly focused on making sure that we give police the tools they need to do their work.
Very good. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
All right, Gene, as expected, the Barrie Colts get through the first round of the playoffs yet again. It's a 5-game series win over the Niagara Ice Dogs. And I think the biggest storyline, I guess you could say, coming into this series was the team was going to be without Kayshawn Aitchison in the first 2 games of the series. And, they split the first 2 games, that they lost this game 2 in overtime. But what did you notice about the team when they were playing without Kayshawn?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that, they're much better with Kayshawn Aitchison in the lineup. And, those first 2 games, I mean, I didn't think Barrie played its best hockey, and Niagara was able to sneak one. But, Barrie got stronger as the series moved along. And, those 2 games in Niagara, they played fairly well, got off to strong starts, and really, but with Game 5, just really able to shut down Niagara completely to wrap up the series.
What did you think of Teague Vader as a fill-in, especially in those first 2 games? He had a big goal in Game 1. What was your thoughts of him kind of slotting into that spot?
Yeah, he just looked completely comfortable. I mean, I think, the fact that they got him, a good amount of ice time during the season, that, in a situation like that where you get a young defenseman, all of a sudden it's got to slot in. And he was able to provide some solid minutes. He scored a big goal. And, Teague's development through the year has been impressive. And I think the team is, fairly comfortable with giving him some minutes back there in big situations like this. And he came through fairly well.
What do you think the biggest takeaway was from those first 2 games without Kayshawn, and what was the biggest thing that he added when the series flipped to St. Catharines?
Yeah, I think the first 2 games, Barrie kind of, it's still finding the way, even though the 2 teams were quite familiar with one another. You didn't see that same jump from Barrie. I thought in Game 1, they had a good burst for the first 10 minutes, but really, credit Niagara. They found a way to hang on. They got some great goaltending from Yermolenko. But there was no doubt that when Kayshawn returned, it provided a big boost. And look, when you add a game breaker like that, and Kayshawn Aitchison is a game breaker, he's got a big-time shot on the power play, which completely changes things on the power play, and just logging the big minutes. And, in Game 5, he laid out a huge hit. I mean, he's just an impact player, and, we saw that through the remaining games that he was in the lineup in a completely different Barrie team.
And that power play you just mentioned there was incredible in this series, 9 for 16 across those 5 games. So obviously special teams big for the Colts in the playoffs so far, and obviously moving forward as we go to Ottawa. Before we move on to that second round series, who are the standouts for you across this Colts squad in round one?
Yeah, I thought, like Brad Gardner again. He's been right from day one. You go back and I don't think last year that he there was a deep team, and he's really played a major role. And in day one, it kicked off here when Keyshawn Nation, Cole Bodo, and Emil Hemming was still away at NHL camps, and he just continued that through the playoffs here. I thought he was a key factor with his team, and I think as well the blue line, just obviously with Keyshawn Aitchison away. I think you saw Parker Von Richter play some major minutes, and a young Chris Emerton as well taking a bigger role on the blue line, played fairly well.
The game four scoring right off the hop of the game, I think, was maybe the craziest part of this series against the Ice Dogs. 5 goals in less than 6 minutes in the first period. What really happened to start that game?
That was just an early knockout blow. I think, and that it was quite an impressive start for Barrie. I don't know if Yermolenko is at his best, but Barrie, they came into those games 3 and 4. They've been so good on the road, and it was just a knockout blow. And I think the Colts were looking to do that. They just got stronger as the series went along. The top guns were just outstanding to start that series. And even though that ended up a 9-6 game, I think a lot of that was just, the 6 straight Niagara power plays. This was a complete blowout. It was 8-1 midway through the second, and it was really an impressive look by a Barrie team that just decided that it was time to dominate and take control of the series.
So 2 years in a row, it's been Barrie over Niagara in 5 games in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. And now the Colts move on to face the 67s in the second round. Barrie having home ice because they won their division. Obviously, the 67s did edge the Colts out by a point in terms of the totals throughout the season. But Barrie's going to have the start at home ice, which is going to be big in this series, I imagine. How much do you think home ice is going to play an advantage?
I think it's going to be big. I mean, especially I think there's going to be a lot of, a bit of a chess match between these two teams, and the fact that Barrie's going to have home ice and the last change would be good in getting the lines out that they want, the players out they want, the matchups that they want. But the interesting thing, Julius, I found was that during this regular season, Ottawa won both games here in Barrie, 2-1 and 3-2 in overtime, and Barrie won both games in Ottawa. So, I mean, I think both these teams can win on the road, but there's no doubt when you look at the Saddle Arena lately, it's been sold out. They've been loud, and that crowd in Game 5 against Niagara, that was the most boisterous crowd I've found all season. You can really sense, it building here in Barrie, the excitement over this hockey club, and I think that's going to be a huge factor as we move along here in what should be a really close series.
It's very interesting there. You mentioned the road team's success in this matchup across the season series. The Colts, in favor of the Colts, 2-1-1, their record in the season series. Aside from the road team winning all 4 of those games, what's your biggest takeaway from what you've seen in the regular season?
Yeah, between I mean, it's going to be close, but I thought Barrie is able to get to Fedorov. Ryder Fedorov, an outstanding goalie, the top goalie really in the Ontario Hockey League this season. Him and Jaden Nelson, but Barrie was able to kind of chase him with 5 goals in that one game in February in Ottawa. And in talking to Dylan Smoskowitz, the early December game, which is really one of the most complete and dominant Ottawa Barrie games I've seen this season, where they went in and won 4-1, and they dominated that game from start to finish. But Dylan Smoskowitz was telling me that it came at a time when the ownership, the management team, and the coaching staff was looking with a trade deadline around the corner. What were they going to do? Was this going to be a team that adds at the deadline, or were they going to team that were going to sell off and some of the big pieces? And the players impressively sent a message that was clear to the coaching and management staff that they wanted to go for it, and it was a really quite impressive effort. And the same back in early February in Ottawa. That was another impressive effort by Barrie. Being able to put up a season high goal against a really good Ottawa defense that gave up the fewest goals in until Hockey League.
You also mentioned the goalies in there as well. Fedorov and Nelson, tandem for Ottawa. Well, Hrebeck and Jaswal for Barrie. Jaswal did have one game. It was the Game 2 overtime loss in the first round. But this might be maybe the tightest head-to-head matchup if you're looking at, sections of each team. So when it comes to goaltending, who do you think has the edge?
Oh, boy, that's a good question, Julius. I think both these goaltenders are outstanding, and both, they're similar. They're 1-2 teams that both teams have confidence in either goaltender. And young Arvin Jaswal, I think, proved that he could be a number one goalie in this league for this season. And then Ben Hrebeck has just at times been simply outstanding, much like Fedorov. But it's kind of crazy to say with the year that Fedorov have and the numbers that they put up. But Ben Hrebeck, I think, is every bit as good as Fedorov in that goal, and it's going to be one of the highlights of this series, the goaltending. And I think you're going to see both Fedorov and Hrebeck keep the net in this series, and it could be the deciding factor in what should be a very close series.
Yeah, last time the 67s were in Barrie, Fedorov really stole the show with the way he played. He was the one that kind of got that win for the 67s, while Hrebeck is coming off a shutout to close out the series against Niagara. So I think we're in for a treat here with these two starting goaltenders. You put out a story Wednesday morning about the connection of Cole Baudouin and Brad Gardner, each of them personally, the way they've been connected to the Ottawa region before. Obviously, Baudouin from Canada, Gardner having played for the 67s previous. How much is that going to play a factor for those two guys?
I think it's huge. When you start with Gardner, obviously, his first 3 seasons with the Ottawa 67s. And it was a big part. He came in as a young player, a third-round pick, and, he was able to kind of, he grew up a lot in Ottawa, the city. You talked to him. He loved it. He loved the fans. He thought he was treated, fairly well, but he was excited about coming back to Barrie. His father, Bruce, had played with the Junior B Colts, and so I think always going back to Ottawa is special for him. And, of course, for Cole Baudouin, growing up in Canada, and it was kind of his hometown, every time he goes there, he's got a huge following, of friends and family in the stands, and of course his young brother, in his hockey team coming out to cheer on Cole, and you can see he really gets up for those games in Ottawa. I think for both of them, that's going to be a special part of this series. Able to go to and talking to Brad Gardner. He wasn't sure earlier if that was going to be his last trip to Ottawa, and he played really well there. And I expect both of them to be, to kind of carry that into Ottawa and play well there.
And both those two guys have been key for this Barrie power play, as I mentioned earlier, which was incredibly dominant in the first round of the series or the playoffs, and has been throughout the regular season. And I think special teams also could be a deciding factor of who comes out on top in this series. But in my mind, Barrie has the edge, just if you look at the numbers. In your mind, do you have the same opinion?
Yeah, I think so. You look at the penalty kills, and you think that Ottawa would be higher with that kind of stingy defense, but when you look at the power plays, I think there's just a bit more firepower. Anytime you got, Cole Baudouin and Emil Hemming and Keyshawn Aitchison, your number one unit. But Julius, the kind of thing that's really impressed me throughout the year is that Barrie has 2 units. And I mean, that second unit at times has been better than the first unit. And a big part of that, the driver on that is Brad Gardner, that big one-time shot. And, he's just taken his game to another level on that power play. And it's to the point, like you said, that Barrie's confident in putting either unit out. And they just got stronger as the season went on. And Gardner was a big part of that. Obviously, Aitchison on that first unit, they love to set him up on that one-timer from the face-off circle, and the same with Brad Gardner when they like those cross ice passes and the one timer and his big time shot.
Well, this is going to be a super exciting series. It starts on Thursday night. Before we go, Gene, I want to ask you, I'm sure you were scoreboard watching throughout the first round of the playoffs outside the Colts and Ice Dog series. Was there any particular moment or series that stood out to you?
I mean, obviously, I think a lot of talk with the North Bay and Owens, the Owens Sound and Flint for just the domination of Flint there and the poor play by Owen Sound. And, I'm really surprised that changes haven't been made there. I think it's just, it's the most lopsided series I've ever seen, and that Owen Sound team, which looked so good early on. As well, too, I think another series that stood out was that North Bay Peterborough. I mean, no surprise, the last game goes into double overtime and North Bay ends up winning, but Peterborough put up a huge fight. That was a fun series to watch. And, the best part, Julius, is that, you look at each series here in the second round, and we have, it might even be better than what was a pretty entertaining first round. I think, there were short series, much across, but this second round, there's a lot of good teams going head to head, and it should be a lot of fun. And I think OHL fans, are going to be in for some great hockey.
Yeah, that North Bay Peterborough series, the only one to go past 5 games, and it was a crazy ending, a double overtime clincher for the Battalion. You think Barrie's going to win this one in 6 games?
Yeah, when at times it looked Barrie, even, you go back to the 2 games in Barrie, 2-1 and 3-2, an early season, and that 3-2 loss, Fedorov was outstanding. But I just think Barrie, the bigger guns, in Bodwin and Hemming and Aitchison, I think it's going to be a close series. Both teams, like I said, outstanding defensive, but both deep lineups. But Barrie's power play, as we talked about, could really be the difference in this series.
Well, game 1's on Thursday night, game 2 on Saturday night at Salem Arena. I'm sure it's going to be yet another sellout series for the Barrie Colts against the 67s. Dean, once again, appreciate your time this week.
Thanks, Julius.
We continue our series of chats with the recent Barrie Chamber of Commerce Women in Business Awards recipients, joined this week by Sophie Rennie, owner of the Sweet and Sassy Bake Shop, who won the Entrepreneur Award. Welcome to What Barrie's Talking About, and congrats on the award.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
What did it mean, first of all, to be nominated and then to actually win the award?
Oh gosh, I couldn't even believe when I originally got the email saying I was even nominated. I think it's pretty special that someone even took the time to go on and think of me and my business and nominate me. And then going through the process of submitting my application and telling the judges more about my business and about my journey. And I was just so honored to know that I was a finalist and I was able to go to the gala. And I went with my mom, and it was a really, really special day. And I was just happy to be there and proud that I even made it this far. So I knew no matter what the outcome was going to be, it was already such a special journey. And hearing my name call, I still can't believe it. It was so exciting. And going up in front of all those amazing businesswomen and being able to talk a bit more about my story and just receive that award, it was a special moment.
Well, let's talk some more about your story. You launched Sweet and Sassy in 2020?
Yes.
Which, if my math skills are intact, means you were like 15 or 16.
I was 16.
Wow. Were you trying to avoid the last year or two of high school?
So it was during lockdown when I was online school.
Right.
And obviously everyone was at home and there was lots of time on everyone's hands. And I've always loved to bake. But, my mom's like, okay, Sophie, like we're baking 10 recipes a day here. Like we can't have hundreds of cookies. So we would go around to our neighborhood and leave some cookies on people's doorstep because, it was quarantine. You couldn't see anyone. And then a few of my friends and family was like, you know what, like, why don't you give it a go? And my mom's like, you're online for high school right now. If you want to try this and take this opportunity. You know, this is going to be your best time to do it. So it didn't even, I was 16 at the time. I was like, sure, why not? Like, this would be great. So, you know, I got my logo, got my business name. My grandparents actually thought of my business name because they say I'm sweet and sassy. So
I was going to ask.
yeah, they came up with that name. And then it was just kind of like, okay, let's do it. I didn't even think twice about it. And I was just like, let's see how this goes. Let's see where it takes me. And now I'm like, I am so thankful that my mom's just try it. Just see how it goes. And I did not think it was going to be this successful. I did not think I would have a store here now. But it's been an incredible journey. I've loved every moment of it.
So how did it start in terms of the size of the business and clientele and that kind of thing? Because you were doing it out of the house.
Yeah, so I did it out of the house for the first 5 years, and it was just like I had a set menu. People would pre-order. And because it was COVID, we set up a little porch pickup table from my house on the porch just because quarantine, you couldn't get too close to anyone. So yeah, it was just like porch pickups, and it was just family and friends and kind of people on my street ordering at the beginning. And then word of mouth is the best thing. And I still think it is, because, you know, then that person dropped it off to this person, or this person told their cousin, or during COVID, actually, I did a lot of kids' birthday parties where they got me to individually wrap the cupcakes, and then they went to all the friends' houses because they couldn't have a birthday party and drop it off at their front door. So
that's great.
Yeah. So at the beginning, it was family and friends. And then eventually I still remember getting my first few orders from like total strangers. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom, like it's not just, you know, Courtney down the street or our family who would come up at holidays and stuff. So it just, again, like word of mouth and people sharing. And then eventually I didn't do custom cakes at the beginning. So it was just cookies, muffins, and scones. And then that's when people were like, would you do custom cakes and cupcakes? And I was like, sure, let's give it a go. And now that's a big part of my business is doing birthday cakes, wedding cakes, anniversaries, all that. So it's been a fun journey. I've loved it.
What was the catalyst finally to get out of the house and find another spot? How did that all come to be?
So it was last April, May, and I was like, you know what? It's been 5 years in the house, and I was like, I really need to figure out something, the next step I can take to be able to grow my business. And I was kind of looking at my options. And last summer, I actually launched a 20-foot dessert trailer. And I thought, you know, this is going to be my next step. I can bring it to different events. People can book it for weddings, parties. So I did that last summer, and I kind of just did any event I could go to just to test it out. And then it was that summer where Adam, from the owner of Kennedy's Lakeside Grocery, reached out and presented this opportunity of opening the store inside of his grocery store. And I was just like, you know what, this opportunity is here now. I need to jump on it. I need to take it. And I say to my mom all the time, like, it didn't even cross my mind of, is this what I want to do? I was just like, you know, this opportunity is here. Like, Mom, we're going for it. So it was the middle of the summer when he asked me. I would say end of July, beginning of August, and then I opened September 6th. So thank goodness my mom's a teacher and she's off in the summer, because August, it was just like go, go, go. And I'm so glad I didn't think twice about it and I just went for it, because it's been incredible.
How much has the business grown since then, now that you've got that location, in addition with the trailer that you had launched as well?
I've been able to reach even more people now that they can come in. And it's because when I was doing pre-orders out of the house, people had to order a dozen of this or 2 dozen of this, because I just didn't have the capacity to be able to bake 10 different flavors for a customer to get only 2 of each flavor. So I think my customers have really been loving that, where they can come in and just grab one cookie, or grab 10 different flavors at once. And I've also been able to expand to do coffee and tea and smoothies and stuff. And just being people able just to walk in and just chat, because I started in COVID, I didn't get to meet face to face with a lot of my customers because it was porch pickup and the whole quarantine. So it's been really nice to just be able to make those connections with people in our community and see them face to face.
You're the sole owner and operator of this enterprise. Where did you get that business savvy? Did it just come as you kept going, or did you have something at school or a family member who...
So my mom was a business owner before she was a teacher, so I have to give big credit to her for all the help she's given me and advice. But I think I still, to this day, I'm just learning as I go. Every day I'm learning new things, learning from my mistakes, learning from wins. But every day is a new adventure, so I just kind of roll with it.
Do you ever have a day where you go and say, I don't want to do any baking today. I'm so tired of this.
So far, haven't hit that. I love it. Like, people always say, baking can be a stress relief, and I truly feel like that. I love it so much. And there's some times where it could be like a super hard custom cake and I'm like not familiar with the design or whatever, but I like those challenges and I just love being in the kitchen. So every day I'm thankful that this is my job. I truly love it.
Do you have anybody working with you or it's just you?
It's just me right now.
Wow.
My mom is incredible. She's been a huge help. But I will be hiring people soon because it is going really well and I can't be at the store full time. So there's going to be some opportunities to hire some people soon.
Well, you've got a store and you've got a trailer and you have to man both of them at the same time sometimes.
So my sister and my mom both have been big help. So, but just time to keep growing.
Speaking of growing, you've got all this happening already, and you're going to have to hire some people. But is there anything else you've got in the back of your mind that, okay, when the time's right, I'm going to do this?
I think just going day by day right now and learning because things are different running the store versus at home. And the trailer obviously was a bit planned. I knew I wanted to do this, but then the store came right after that. So I feel like right now I'm getting into a really good groove of what works, what doesn't work. So I think right now just taking it day by day, learning what's working still, what doesn't work. But, I'm always looking for that opportunity to grow. So I guess we'll wait and see.
And you've got a lot of time to grow. You're still very young.
Yes. So I'm in no rush I just know the opportunities come just like the store. I knew it was always in the back of my mind that, I wanted a storefront one day, but I just kept it in the back of my mind. And then this opportunity came and I jumped on it and no looking back from now.
That's terrific. Thank you so much for coming in. Congratulations again on the award. Well earned by what you said here and the fact that you got nominated in the first place. Somebody thought you were doing something right.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Continued success.
Thank you.
And welcome back to the What Barrie's Talking About podcast. I'm Julius Hearn, joined with Dan Arlo from Two Men and a Truck, and ahead of this year's Movers for Moms campaign. And this is the second year for you guys. This one running until May 1st. First off, people who don't know, obviously this is year 2 for you guys, but tell us more about what you guys aim to do with this Movers for Mom campaign.
What we aim to do with our Movers for Mom campaign is to be able to support the women and children at the Women's and Children's Shelter that are going through a tough time, to be able to give them a little bit extra for them on Mother's Day.
So how did this all start for you guys, especially in the Barrie market?
It just started with, for us, is just we all have moms. We all understand that they are typically the patriarch of the family, and we do what we can to support them.
So last year, over 600 items collected for you guys in support of the Barrie Women's and Children's Shelter. What was the response like from people that were willing to help out last year, aside from just the items themselves?
It was overwhelming. It was quite surprising to me. It was the very first time me personally running a campaign like this, and it was just overwhelming. I went to the fact of when the campaign was over, I still had people reaching out to me to see if they can donate and what they can do to help the community.
So what items are being requested this year specifically? Is there something that's, really desired right now that's really needed at this point, or is there kind of a amalgamation of different items?
The big thing this year, and I experienced it, I went over to the Women's and Children's Shelter today. Tim Hortons cards, just some that we take for granted just to go get a coffee for these women that are in this tough time. It's a difficult, they have to start their life over with zero money, zero items, whatever the shirt's on their backs. So
you mentioned Mother's Day being around the corner. Obviously, that coming up next month, and your campaign will run until May 1st. So obviously, there'll be enough time to kind of get everything over to them, I'm sure. Why is it so important to help out women here specifically?
It just strengthens our community as a whole, just to let these women that are, may not realize how much support they have, just to know that there's people out in our community willing to step up and help out.
What about being a moving company like you guys are with Two Men in a Truck? What about being a moving company kind of puts you in a unique position to help out with this cause?
I think really it boils down to is that they need a lot more men to be able to step up and bring their voices to the table to show the community that these women they're being cared for and looked after.
What'd you learn from this last year that you can kind of take from that and improve for this year's campaign?
The biggest thing is just being more social media presence with it, and just really getting the message out there, and having opportunities like today to speak with you is just putting more opportunities out there for us.
How many people do you have along in this cause for you guys? I'm sure there's going to be a whole crew kind of joining you along in this cause for the Barrie Women's and Children's Shelter. How many people are helping out?
We currently have 14 community partners in and around Barrie. Envy Hair Studio, Connected Hair Studio, Rona, First Choice, quite a few Magic Cuts. Just so many people out there, community partners out there, just willing to step up and hold the donation box for us.
So it's kind of like a bin. People can kind of drop in items that they want to donate from the stores. Is that how that kind of works?
Absolutely, yes.
How can other businesses, if they want to get involved, how can they do so?
If anybody else would like to become a community partner, we would love it. Reach out to me personally, daniel.arlo@twomen.ca. Send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to deliver a box to your business.
One more time before we go, obviously, just give me one more overview, one more rundown of how people can get involved and what you guys are looking for.
The biggest thing, if you're unable to donate, just spread the word, share social media posts, talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends, let the community know that we're here and we're ready to help.
Two Men in a Truck with the Movers for Moms campaign. Dan, once again, really appreciate you coming in and spreading the word. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Julius for his input, to Logan Miller for his talents weaving it all together, Anthony Giordano for his help promoting it, and of course to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.